Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This meeting and all meetings of this council are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statute, so citizenry may be aware of the time, the place, and the agenda of this meeting. We'll have a roll call.
Shani Appleby.
Here.
Bruce Brunner.
Here.
Johanna Edwards is absent today. Nick Gunderson.
Here.
Scott Rasmussen.
Here.
Jim Zandro.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. I would ask our guests to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Shani Appleby.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we approve the agenda, I'd like to ask that we amend the agenda and add, I'm going to call it 4A, and move up a portion of the police chief's report of 11 up to a 4A. If I could have a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to move the portion of the meeting up.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. I would need a motion to approve the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any questions or comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I need a motion then to approve the minutes from our regular council meeting on June 16th, 2014, and the special council meeting on July 1st, 2014.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes of the regular common council meeting on June 16th of 2014 and the special common council meeting on July 1st of 2014.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments or additions to that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Next, I'm going to move on to 4A. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Polchak.
Thank you for letting me adjust your schedule. I'll be brief. On July 1st of this year, I promoted Adam Roby to corporal with the Weyauwega Police Department. He came to us on October 15th, 2007. Since then, he's in the back there. We moved it up because he's got 4 of his 5 children with him here and his wife. Has started a family. He's living here. He's become a consummate professional. He's known throughout the region as a drug and alcohol detection expert. He's been called to other agencies, other jurisdictions to help them out because of his advanced training, specifically with drug drivers. He is probably the main reason that we're at the center of a drug task force right now. His intelligence that he gathers is being used all over East Central Wisconsin, in some cases all over the state of Wisconsin. So typically, in my years of being on the police department, we've promoted because of merit, not time. And Adam has now, he's crossed that threshold where he can have some more responsibility, and he's earned it. So I just wanted to come in front of the council, sorry for standing in front of you, Shani, to recognize Adam for his hard work and formally promote him to corporal. I'm going to ask you to come up here, Adam, and I'll give you your new badge. You've got a lot of work to do by Wednesday.
A lot of sewing.
Congratulations. There's your patches, there's your badge, and there's your whistle. Appreciate it.
Adam?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. As most of you know, Adam lives here in town, and there won't be any disrespect. He's gonna, I think, probably peel out with his kids, so.
Just very honored to work for a Class A organization such as Weyauwega, and happy to call Weyauwega my home. So, thank you.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to citizens' appearance. We'll state that there is a few things. There's comments. Rules for that would be that the comments from the public will be limited. And you can only discuss things that are not on the agenda. And when the public comments, please state your name and your address for the record. And also, comments will be limited to about 10 to 15 minutes. And the council's role in this portion is just to listen, not to discuss nor comments or actions of anything on this. Items will be referred to by me then to the proper committees that they belong to. So next on there, we have Jason Reckel with a pit bull ordinance. He would like the council to review the existing ordinance that is prohibiting a non-grandfathered pit bull within the city limits. So I would ask that this would get referred to the ordinance committee. I don't think we need to vote. And then we will move on to the next, which would be the Weyauwega Lake Restoration. I don't know, but I have Mike Gear and Jim Talfa. I believe you are the two gentlemen that are talking for the lake. Okay.
And you're up.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Jim Toffa, Vice President of Weyauwega Lake Restoration, as most of you know. And I'm here to discuss the possible formation of a lake district. But briefly, before I get into that, I would like to comment on our signs that we put up, our rules on our lake association. And since they were ignored, we hired Spantech, which is an outfit that does AIS surveys, aquatic invasive species survey. And because the boats were plowing through there, the boat fishermen and stuff, they have scattered the seeds and chopped up the weeds in fine particles. Anybody can see it if you go to the dam or if you go out onto the lake on your own, you can see that they're spreading. And that's not entirely their fault, but it's 90% of it. And the other rule that everybody was in such a hussy about was the ice racing. Now, the DNR did frown down upon that, as you know, and because of the hibernation of the turtles and the frogs and everything. We're not here to limit anybody's recreation, okay? But we do have a license to fish, not a license to drink and drive out on the lake 90 miles an hour at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's what we're here for. If it's a scheduled event, we can be flexible about it, but it would have to be on certain hours, certain day, and that's it. You know, that's where we stand with that. But with me, I have Mike Guire, who is president of White River Lake Association, Lake District, and he has some very interesting comments. I think if you have an open mind and you hear the gentleman out, you'll learn something today. Okay? Thank you.
Don't mind me, my bag. As Jim said, my name is Mike Mayer. Before I get into my presentation, I'd like to tell you that I was not born into this lake studies or lake organizations or anything like that. I'm a retired narcotics detective from Madison. I retired in '98. My wife and I bought our home in February of '98. Waterfront property, but a lot of ice. In May, when we closed on the house, that's when the weeds came in. You could basically walk across the body of water. So we started asking questions of the people that live there, and they said, well, there's no organization, no association or anything So we started an association in '99. At that time, it was a voluntary association, similar to what you have here on this body of water. There's 72 families involved, by the way, on our association. In 2000, we called in the DNR to do a plant survey, and at that time, they found Eurasian water milfoil, which is an invasive, and also curly leaf pondweed in the flowage. At that time, I contacted the Town of Dakota Board, and we went 50-50 on putting up signs at the 2 public landings on the flowage, warning the people about the invasive plants and that it was an infested body of water. In 2004, we were finally able to get a lake management planning grant from the state done. We hired Aaron and Associates out of Burlington, Wisconsin, to come in and do it. It cost our association at that time about $4,000, which we were able to come up with. The survey at that time found that out of the 133-acre body of water that makes up the White River flowage, 38 acres was infested with milfoil and 14 acres with curly leaf pondweed. So in 2004, we purchased an aquamarine harvester to cut channels so as not to spread the weeds. We would cut these channels for the residents to use. So we've got a channel system built on the flowage. That worked out really well. It's still in the works today. That harvester we bought as an association for $13,500. A bank was willing to go with us on us and loaned us the money to make this purchase. In 2004, I also applied for an AIS grant, Aquatic Invasive Species Grant, through the state. We were turned down because we were a volunteer organization, which an association is. So nothing was being done about the milfoil or the curly leaf at that point. It had already gone on 4 years from the DNR study in 2000 to the Lake Management Planning Grant in 2004. In 2004 also, the White River flowage was named the unhealthiest body of water in Weyauwega County. We could never get enough money together to do the projects that we needed to do to save that body of water and to maintain our property values and also our way of living. Once again, I am not born into this. I want to protect my property. So in 2005, I was against the idea of becoming a lake district because I didn't like the idea of Big Brother watching over us. I soon found out that 99% of the people that lived on the flowage agreed with me. So we went to the county board and applied to become a lake district. We had to go door to door with a petition, and 99.99% of the people that live in the proposed boundaries of that district were in favor of becoming a lake district to get this project completed. That was in 2005, November 2005. In 2006 and 2007, the milfoil was rated at 45 acres of Eurasian water milfoil, and curly leaf was 18 acres. You notice it keeps going up. We hired a contractor locally. At this point, we generated revenue through taxation. I became chairman of the White River Flowage Lake Management District, which is our formal name. For 2 years, we went with this one contractor, and after 2 years, he told us that he had eradicated 5 acres. That is bad business as far as I'm concerned. For the amount of money that we spent, and it was about $18,000 that we spent to eradicate. We then sat down with the DNR and told them what the problem was. They suggested we go at this thing full bore and not try to treat parcels at a time, treat the entire area, the entire body of water. We contracted with a second chemical treatment company, and we went to a bank in Weyauwega and secured a loan for $40,000 to eradicate the invasive plants in the body of water. With that $40,000, we were able to eradicate the Eurasian water milfoil to the point that in 2011, we had less than an acre of Eurasian water milfoil and 3.3 acres of curly leaf. The reason the curly leaf is still high, as far as I'm concerned, is because of the current. It's at the north end of the flowage, which is a river, and the chemicals that we put on those plants in that area were just flushed away. We used a new chemical called ClearCast last year with Stantec, our contract company, and they said you would see changes this year, and we have seen changes this year. So the ClearCast is working for us. Also in 2011, the White River flowage was named the healthiest body of water in Weyauwega County by Weyauwega County Land Conservation and Zoning Department. So in a period of 6 years, as a district, we were able to go from the worst to the best. And that's all because of the fact that we became a district. I can show you all kinds of paperwork here, which I brought along. When you become a district, there's a lot of paperwork. This is our last 3-year grant. It's you can see it's quite a bit of work. This is the Lake Management Planning Grant for 2003 to 2004. This is the treatment plan from 2006 to 2007, where we had the company that wasn't very efficient, I'd say. This is the one that counts. Stantec company, we will always be with Stantec. We are now in a bi-yearly treatment program with them. I trust them with my wife. These are post-treatment report surveys that they do at a cost, and it tells us exactly what we need to do the following year. You do a pre-treatment survey before the treatment, and then they do the treatment, and then you do a post-treatment. And that's what these are, post-treatment reports on what they've done, what they've eradicated. I actually hired a second company to come in and check them to see if they're legit or not, if they're giving us the right numbers. I guess that's the cop in me. But everything that what they're telling us is right on. And this is the book by the Weyauwega County Land Conservation and Zoning Department that named us #1 healthiest body of water in the county. It's a lot of paperwork. My wife is a secretary, and we are looking to step down from our positions next year in September because I'm supposed to be retired, and I've done anything but retire. I'm also the president of the Weyauwega County Watershed Lakes Council. We govern all the bodies of water in Weyauwega County, and I'm the president of that organization. As president of that organization and chairman of the White River Flowage Lake Management District, I've got another meeting like this tomorrow night for Buse Lake in Weyauwega, just outside of Weyauwega. They want to become a lake district because as an association, they cannot accomplish what they need to do. So my recommendation to the board would be to research this. I can give you names of guys that will come in here from the DNR, that work with the DNR, that will give you all the information you need to start a lake district. But I would strongly suggest doing that if you want to save that body of water, because that body of water has got to generate revenue for this community. That's the only way I could see it. My wife she didn't graduate from the Weyauwega, but she did attend Weyauwega High School. And she wanted to know if I should bring her along tonight. I says, no, I think you better stay home. She might bump into people she knows. But anyway, getting back to the facts, from 1999 to 2004, as an association, we couldn't generate squat. as far as getting grants. We were turned down for grants. You have to have state grants, AIS grants, Clean Boat, Clean Water Program, and so on. The idea with the grants is to make the state pay for what you need done. These are 75-25 grants. The icing on the cake for our district arrived June 6th of this year. We purchased a brand-new harvester. We had it built down at Aquarius Systems in North Prairie, Wisconsin. The grant I received was a 50-50 grant on that project, totaling $150,082. The harvester came in at $148,675. We would not have been able to do that without being a district. And that's something that you guys have to seriously look at. If you think that body of water is going to generate more revenue for you or can generate more revenue for you, you have to have control of it. And I think you're in the same boat that we are. We've got North American Hydro at the south end of our body of water. You've got North American Hydro here, from what I understand. In 2012, I didn't tell you about that part. After being named the healthiest body of water in Weyauwega County in 2012, the city of Weyauwega did a drawdown of their mill pond under the direction of the DNR. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request for any documentation from the city council meetings where they discussed this drawdown period. And also I requested an environmental impact study, which has to be done by the DNR before any such drawdowns are completed. The documents that were released to me were several minutes in reference to city council meetings. However, the DNR report on the environmental impact study was not done. And what they had done, actually, the DNR gave the city of Weyauwega the environmental impact study they did for Lake Weyauwega. So I've got your 24-page environmental study at my residence, which didn't do me any good because after they did the drawdown, without doing the environmental impact study on our body of water, they plugged up 1,000 yards of channel. We are a Class A trout river in the state of Wisconsin. When they plugged up the channel, the 1,000-yard channel, the trout left the area because the water temperature was not cold enough to sustain them. We have Brown Brook and Rainbow. We are now constructing that channel ourselves. I'm doing it basically. I'm using the new harvester, and I use the old harvester. And the DNR doesn't bother me at all because they know they dropped the ball on this one. But you can't sue the DNR, it's almost impossible. And we are not financially stable to do that. So that's pretty much all I have to say. We are now battling the north end of our district because of what was done without our control, without the help of the DNR. The DNR is now starting to construct the channel at the very north end of the White River at our boundary. And they are going to be coming into our district to shore up that channel so we have more current coming through there, which will give and bring back the trout, which we are missing. In fact, this past Saturday was Trout Unlimited Day at the north end of our district, and there were about 60 guys out there and women working, cleaning up the channels and stuff like that under the direction of Sean Sullivan from the DNR. So I have information about what your drawdown was all about, but I'm not going to comment on that. They're going to burn off the Weyauwega grass later this year and then recharge that body of water, which I think is a mistake for Weyauwega. They should leave it as is, create a park, because every time you get 3 or 4 inches of rain, the downtown floods in Weyauwega. That would be their flood basin if they left it as a park. But you can't talk to those guys. So anyway, my recommendation is to really look into the possibility of forming a Lake District, find out what your boundaries are. I can show you boundaries that we did for our district, and I'll just pass this around real quick. I'd like to get it back though. But if you look in this upper right-hand corner. The boundary used to come up, this is 19th Street here, and it goes over to Cottonville, straight over. After we laid that out, I thought if I lived over there, I'd be pretty ticked off because this body of water does not affect these people. There is, however, a railroad trestle that comes through there, and the railroad trestle is now our boundary. And what you see in the fluorescent orange or green there are the boundaries of the White River Flowage Lake Management District. There are 72 families that have residences and properties, both cottages and year-round homes that live there. And they support everything that I or my board come up with as far as proposals on things to do. When you take into consideration that I approach these people that we're gonna spend about $76,000 on a weed harvester, that's a tight pill to swallow for 72 families. But we did it. In fact, I just sent a check off to the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands yesterday in the amount of $40,139.15. The harvester balance that we have is $25,000, and we'll have that paid off in 3 years, plus we'll have a nest egg. And that's all because of a district. So it's a lot of work. I'll tell you right now, it's a lot of work. There's a lot of people that live in the district that I represent that are wondering what's gonna happen when my wife and I step down. But I believe wholly in that body of water, and I've decided that's my place where I'm gonna live the rest of my life. Peace and quiet is what I look for. And it's a no-wake lake. The people bought into the channel system, they bought into the fact that we bought a harvester. They know that we do chemical treatments bi-yearly. They know that they can trust the chemical company we have, and they know that our decisions, what we come up with, they recommend, they go along with it. But that's only because they're a district. So they're now gonna belly up an additional $70 each unit. The 72 are called units. 72 units, they're gonna belly up $70 besides their taxes on the district to pay off the harvester in 3 years. So, I mean, that's the power of a district. You can't do nothing as an association. I tried, I was beating my head against the wall. And when it came to the possibility of being a district, I wasn't real happy about it because I don't like the idea of a big brother. But you cannot get nothing accomplished unless you do it. And I've got to do the same presentation tomorrow night to Buse Lake and there's another lake in Witters Lake. Witters Lake in the town of Dakota wants to become a district also, so I'm sure I'll be going over that way. But that's my presentation. I just want to show you what you can do and what you can't do and what exactly a district will do for you. And the district gives you the power to write grants, to bring in the state, and have the state pay for 75% of projects you need to do. It's that simple. You're using the state's money. Questions?
A quick question, you've got some of those documents there, do you have any of them in electronic form?
Yes, I do.
Otherwise, can we maybe get your email address, we can contact you that way?
Here's one right here.
Oh, you've got, okay.
Yeah. This is the, Lake Management Planning Grant, done by Aaron and Associates. Kathy Aarons is the president. They did it in the disc form and also in hard copy. The applicator here, these are all state grants. I wrote the grants. I learned how to write the grants with my wife. It gets quite extensive. This one here I'll show you just for the grins. This is the type of figures you have to come up with when you're working on a grant. These figures here. Dates and the cost of them. But I write all of our grants, and you know, you start dealing with other people's money, you gotta watch out where it goes. That's why I have all these pieces of paperwork. I used to work white collar crime too, so I guess I'm kinda used to that. But, I've been asked to come here and do a presentation about the pros and cons of a district compared to an association. And if I've answered your questions, or if you have questions, I'd be more than happy to do what I can. If you want documentation, I can leave you that disc, but I need it back. This is actually the life and, this is
Yeah,
the.
no, why don't you keep it, that's fine.
All right.
That's fine.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a specific point you want to refer that then?
That's what I'm trying to-
I know Attorney Kelly is going to be at the August council meeting. He's aware, he's got some thoughts on your role in the process as it relates to city and the town having land around the lake and what the county then would have to do to move this along. So I mean, if it's something that you want to have the action at the August council meeting, or if you want a special council meeting ahead of time, it's really up to you guys.
Before we appoint it to a committee, I'd first rather do that myself. I know where it could go.
Yeah, let's hear from them first.
What's that?
Before we make it, make an appointment to a committee, I'd rather sit down and talk to him first to see
Okay.
where,
Yeah.
what committee it should be directed to and where it would go.
Yep, he'll be here either by the end of the week or early next week. If you want to schedule a meeting, we can do that.
Okay. We will do that then.
Okay.
Okay. Did you have anything else, Jim, as far as Lake District?
No, I appreciate you guys hearing us out though.
Okay.
You know, because we've been working real hard at this for a long time. And just so you guys know, we're not, we're for the community. You know, we're not trying to hurt anybody's fun. This is for all of us to enjoy. There's nothing more than I'd like to see swimming back here again someday, but I think that's kind of a far out shot right now, but,
Okay.
you know, but we're bringing the fish back. I just put another 2,500 perch in a couple weeks ago. And I got another 2,500 crappie coming in the fall. And right now, believe it or not, the weeds are advantageous for, you know, this fry. But after the weeds are gone, they're certainly on their own. But thanks again.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on. Number 3, Mr. DuBois.
Thank you. I guess I have a question of Becky. My ears are getting a little bit deaf back here. Thank you. Reason we don't have the
No,
speakers out? Okay, just asking, but if it doesn't affect anyone else's hearing, that's fine, but mine are a little bit delicate right now. We are in correspondence with Schulke's daughter who lives up north, and Schulke is the gentleman who built the train model that's upstairs. That was rebuilt and put up by the city 2 months ago, 3 months ago, someplace in there. Many positive comments on that. She has also written a poem about her dad, and that book is now upstairs in the library because she sent us that book to have in the library to go on loan. And I'm hoping that I can take a trip up north and bring her down here so she can see the train, because she wondered what it looked like. So we've sent her a picture and we've been in correspondence with her a little bit. The quilting show was here, and I'm sorry that I'm wrapping 2 months into one because I missed the meeting last time. We had over 100 patrons here, and I hate to bring up a sore point, but one of the things came up by 2 patrons is, can't you put up some signs to direct us to the library? And I know I talked to Patrick about it, and it's still a point with the state, but I really would, whatever we can do, let us know if we need to put a letter in or whatever, so that, because that's not the only show we're going to have here, and we'd like to make sure that we have good directions here. The fiber optics, it's one of the reasons why one of our outlets back there is hanging. We're getting fiber optics in here in order to expand our bandwidth a little bit. And I was directed by the directors from the library board, do we know what all the digging is? Because it's not all for the fiber optics.
a lot of
What
it's-
all is going on?
We Energies over the next 2 years is upgrading the power service in town. And
Okay,
this year, they're on the north section of the city and on the south. And they're replacing poles, burying a lot of lines. But
Okay.
whatever, I think this is about the end point for this year. And then next year, they're gonna catch the middle of the city.
the reason I'm bringing it up is they're across the street, they're up the street, and they're right on a property
Yeah.
here, and I'm thinking, okay, that's not all fiber optics, what else is going on?
Yeah.
So, okay, I thank you from there. The other thing that on a sad note, I guess, and I've been talking about that, we've sort of been inching up, but lately we've been fluctuating in our attendance. Last year to this year, the month of June, we had a 13.8% decrease instead of increase. But over the year, we're almost even, because 1 month we're up, 1 month we're a little bit down. We haven't figured out, is it the weather, is it something else, but we knew we couldn't keep climbing. So we've hit a plateau and we hope that we hold it steady. Any questions on your part at all about the library or anything going on here? Okay, if not, thank you very much.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to number 6, review and discuss phase 2 design results, City Hall project.
I'm gonna move the camera quick, but just so you guys know, the color sheet of paper you have is the original layout floor plan that you brought to the public information phase. This black and white packet shows the results that they'll go through of phase 2. There's a little bit of a change in there, but they'll go through that for you.
Well, good evening. It's been a while since we've been here, so get a lot on your agenda. I won't take too much of your time, but I think probably just to get started, what I'd like to do is just point out a few of the small changes we've made on the plan. And, I'm not going to get into all the nitty-gritty details, but just going to talk about what the changes circled from. And to start out with, we originally had the stairway orientated up and down. We've changed it a little bit in our new plan. The other big change is, the stairs in the back. Oh, excuse me, the stairs in the back here with the elevator. What we did on that was, we wanted to get the stairway to the exterior of the building. So if you'd enter the stairway from the second floor, you come into the stairwell and exit directly outside. You just have to come through the vestibule like we had it, like we had it originally. These plans are, one is with north up, the old one is with north down, so you gotta forgive me a little bit. The other change that we made was the lobby area into the City Hall offices is a little bit larger than what we originally were. The community room all remained the same on the main level. And then we brought a hallway in from the garage into the main lobby, so you'd enter into the elevator to go to the police department. That did a couple things. It eliminated the double entry elevator. So before we had a two-sided elevator, so we'll save a bit of cost there. We did look at the potential of expansion on the property. So the dashed line would represent what could be added. We moved the garage and evidence prep over a bit. If you look at the back of the City Hall, the existing building adjacent to City Hall does have a sloping roof towards what would be the proposed garage, so we just stepped it back for improved drainage. I'm going to go to the basement here quick. Originally we had discussed the locker room and the police storage all being over into the existing city hall. What we did is we looked at, the existing headroom and trying to remodel the space. We felt it was gonna be more efficient to leave this as it was, leave it more of a raw space, and then, since we're building a new basement, put all the new functions within that space. Originally, we did have some unexcavated areas, so it's the same amount of wall to enclose that space, so that's why you see some added space in this new floor plan. So, we're able to get you more space essentially for the same amount. So, second floor also experienced a lot of change, and what we did here is we tried to stack the restrooms. Move this over a little bit. Recognizing that anytime we can stack up the restrooms on top of each other rather than going back and forth through the building, we're gonna save some costs. So you'll see the restrooms on main level are located here. On the second level, they're located directly above that. And if you remember back, when we had the original plan, we talked about the ramp and the different floor elevations. We were able to get rid of the ramp and lower this floor. We talked with some contractors to determine how we could do that in the most cost-effective manner. And we got a really good solution worked out for that, basically just trimming the joists, adding a new floor level in, and some new walls down to the basement. So we're pretty excited about that detail.
Part of that too, Corey, and I'm gonna jump in with it, there was something that needed to be addressed with the load on that floor, so it wasn't
Yes.
just an optional item, I think it had to be taken out.
Well, we were originally planning on leaving the floor system in, and you see these dark dots down in the community room, those are columns. So we always plan on adding additional support to that floor system. So by lowering the floor, we already have the columns, we weren't adding that much cost to make it all one level. Just knowing that you're gonna be in this facility for another 50 years plus, we wanted to do it right, so we weren't comfortable with that. No, that's an option if, if the cost is out of line, we could look at perhaps keeping that the way it is, but we'll play that out as we proceed through the design. Again, as I mentioned, on the main level, you come into the elevator to go up to the second floor to the police department, and here on the second level, you would come out and come into this hallway to get into the police department. Not a lot of space movement or changes into the functions that go on within the police department or city offices, but just kind of working that central core to make the space more efficient, less blind corners. The flow works a little bit better. So we're starting to look at the structure of the building, the mechanical systems and how things will work. Looking at where we have more of the office spaces, trying to use furnaces, real simple, low-cost systems. And then the larger community function and the council chambers going with rooftop units on the new building and then ducting into the old buildings. Reason being for that is those systems are more efficient with larger groups of people. You're gonna have a lot more cooling, a lot more fresh air requirements, so the rooftop units work quite well for that. So, plumbing we talked a little bit about, but stacking those restrooms, we got them stacked on the first, second, and also on the basement level. So we're trying to keep everything within that central core of the building. As we proceed further into the design, we'll look at, do we want to tap onto the existing sanitary laterals, or are we going to try to go out to Alfred? We're going to look at those options, what's going to be most cost effective and best for the city. Also with the water main, we'll be looking at that as well, whether we want to go to Alfred or out to the main street there. I'm going to talk a little bit about the elevation. We had the original rendering that we did, and the rendering is, we use a 3D software for the development of these renderings and floor plan. Now, when we get into the construction documents on a renovation project, the 3D software isn't best suited for this type of project, so we step back and we're using a two-dimensional approach here. And what we did is we developed this front elevation. So it's not in the 3D formats you've seen before, but you can see that we have changed the front of the city hall. We looked at some of the old pictures, the historic photos, and the old front had a overhead door. So we wanted to resemble that existing look. We wanted to add the headers back into the windows. So it brings it back to what the building used to be and removes all the stone. And we would have likely done that either way, but I think this is more historically correct. The old mall building, basically going in, recreating that storefront, putting the signage back on, and the signage, be it community center, municipal center, or the old village hall sign, that's still up there. I know it's city hall, but it says village hall on there. We can discuss that as we go, and that may change, and you may have some different desires for that, but we wanted to get something on there just to show the theme. The new building, we tried to model that to a few of the buildings we found around town. So we do have some arches, we have the grids, and the large open storefront. So that way, when you come up to City Hall, it's nice and inviting, the main entrance, and that light will flow all the way through. The site plan, one of the things we started talking about as we were getting into this a bit more, is at the rear of City Hall, there's a lot of space, all the parking lot out there. And when you work on a new construction site, you know, you don't have to worry about where you park equipment and busting up the asphalt and that. So when we started going through this project a bit more, we did include some additional parking lot in the estimate, just because we know it's gonna get beat up a little bit from the staging and work the contractor's gonna do.
And also with the site, now's the opportunity if you want to do some work in the back to add some green space, islands, tree or two here or there. Now's the opportunity when it does get used as a staging area and there's some revisions to the parking lot that we can, you know, make a little difference from just a sea of asphalt. But that's a decision you have to make. If we don't do that, that's fine. But now's the time if we're going to do anything with the back with respect to that. The other thing that Corey has been, and we've been working on, is the front area where you have the different levels of entrance. He talked earlier about ADA accessibility coming from the front. There may have to be a ramp to bring them in on the front of the building because each of the floors are at different levels.
And we've looked through some alternatives on how we can do that, and trying to maintain everything on the same level and then providing a ramp out in front. We've checked with the state just to see how they would look at it in terms of an existing building and an addition. The codes can get quite complex and how they look at it and what their determination is, so we wanted to get their opinion on that. The other thing Thad talked about, the stormwater ponds, I did forget to mention, right now all the roof water comes off the back of those buildings, and then by adding some green space, we can actually take that water underground through some pipes, get it into some manholes, and perhaps a rain garden in some islands or boulevards out there. So I'm not going to say it's going to get rid of any water problems in the building, but it can help mitigate those. We're working with some older buildings here. So. Any question? I went through a lot on the floor plans, so I know it's been a while since we met with the council.
A lot of those, or all those comments that Corey talked about are in your report on your system.
It's in your packet.
Right, it's in the packet.
And I tried to set it up so you could go level by level, and then I talked about the mechanical, electrical, plumbing system specifically as well.
What Corey was talking about on the site work, when we were looking at the water system, the sewer system and so forth, if we're gonna be doing some work in the parking lot in the back, it's probably more cost effective to run the water main out to Alfred Street than it is to go and tear up Main Street, because we have to go all the way across the road to the north side. And we'll look at that as we get further in, but restoration costs will increase where you're already gonna restore the area in the back.
And as we proceed through the design, there will be those decisions. We'll provide a cost versus benefit to the council and let you make those decisions and work with you and guide you through that. The last time we met, we had an estimate, so we've gone through and revised that estimate to reflect what we have on paper and our best analysis of the market conditions and what's going on today. So right now, if you're looking at the estimate, our construction estimate is $1,715,000. So we went with a 10% contingency yet. So the contingency is at 179,000. So the, excuse me here, I'm gonna flip back and forth. What I am including in the estimate, if you look at that, is a sales tax reduction. Since you are a municipality, we include sales tax in the bid, but the contractors can take that out through a direct owner purchase program. So that's a savings of about 75,000. So, and that's a very conservative estimate at this point. We did also include a line item for architectural, engineering, regulatory fees, all those items. Now, that's just an estimate at this point in time, and that's gonna depend on what the city would like as far as services and what's required from the regulatory agencies for permit and review fees. So if you want more inspection, we got you covered. If you don't want as much, we can provide less and negotiate that with you. The overall project cost did come in right now with the estimate, and this includes the phone, the data. This is turnkey. I got an allowance in there for furniture, computer systems, all the state review fees, all that. We're at 2.2 million. So, but if you back out that contingency, that 10% contingency, that gets you back closer to that 2 million. So.
The other, Corey, just because we've reviewed this ahead of time, but when you talk about a lot of the work in the back parking lot, how much of that was included in?
Basically,
or what are we looking at for that cost, just with landscaping and that type of thing?
I don't know the exact dollar figure. It did go up a fair amount with the site.
Site work was
So,
about 117.
Okay.
The water main and storm sewer was about 50.
And that's in the $2.2 million, yeah, okay.
correct.
Because that's not something that we really were talking about so much up until now, but it's
No.
certainly something that's going to be realized.
It's an option, and if we are gonna do anything, now's the time to take a look at it. Because, you know, again, when the contractors come in and do the work, they need a staging area to work at. They're gonna have trailers in, you know, semi-trailers in here with all their equipment and so forth, running back and forth. So a portion of that back area is gonna get damaged, but it'll be restored when they leave. So we felt if a portion is getting damaged, we should take a look at, if the city wants to do something different back there, we can. Otherwise, we'll go put it back to where it was and you know, go with that. We have a little bit of an estimate in there for some patio pavers in the back coming out of that southern door. Remember we talked about an entrance back there, a little patio and a bench maybe, flagpole, that type thing. Some bushes, architectural landscape back there. So there is a little bit of money put in there in that 150,000 to cover some of that cost also.
I had just one question. If we decide, you know, for islands and over there, you know, for shrubs and trees, how much parking is gonna be lost?
It will have to go through
We'll take a look at that, yeah.
look at them. I mean, it'll be a couple of spaces.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
The biggest concern before was parking for your citizens,
Mhm.
you know, so that they wouldn't have to cross a busy street.
Come in the back.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is say we can't work with the bank next door because they have that gravel area. You know, between ours, we can't work with them and put something together and get some green space back there for that area. Different type of lighting, you know, different things like that.
Another project I worked on, we just added a bunch of green space similar to that, but we went through and we reconfigured their parking, made the parking a little more efficient. They actually got green space and didn't lose any stalls, so, you know, once we get things laid out, it may work out that you don't lose any.
Can you comment a little bit on, when you get to the 1.7 million plus for construction? I know I had seen a few of the contractors come through. Can you comment a little bit on who you had worked with or who you asked? And who, you know, what their location is and relation maybe to the area?
Yeah, we talked to a local contractor, Wayne, is it Muck or Mook?
Muck.
Muck, okay.
Yeah, he's the gentleman that just did the park restroom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he worked with a lot of local subcontractors to verify our costs. What we did is we started out, and I always do a bottoms-up estimate. and get a cost, and I basically put that in the drawer, and then I work another estimate with contractors. So we worked with local contractors. The fire suppression contractor that we worked with was out of Appleton. So I also worked with a few contractors that I know and trust on specialty aspects, such as the framing, because I work with them on a day-to-day basis. I can call them up and I can explain it, and I know I'm gonna get an accurate cost, not a super inflated, and we work back and forth on things like that. So all the specialty items like that, we kind
Windows.
of dug into. The windows, I worked with Pella out of Appleton, and what was another one that we had?
Roof?
The roof, I worked with, he just did the roof up in Manawa, contractor up there. I also got another price check for a roofer over in Plover. So we beat this one up pretty good as far as cost estimating. The market conditions and, seeing some of the bids out on the exchange right now, I wanted to make sure we dialed it in. And surprisingly, I was very happy to find that the contractors' estimates were reflecting what we were proposing, so. And I think we built in a little bit on some of the, maybe the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, or maybe, not a lot, but we know that we're covered. Because there's still some design decisions to be made, so. The other thing is working with that 10% contingency too. As decisions are made, things are added, we'll be working against that contingency, and we'll, as we get further into design, determine where we want that contingency to be going into construction. And there are added drawings that we didn't, go over in great detail, but we have building sections established, we got roof plans, we got a mechanical plan, we're starting to lay out the electrical, some of the plumbing, the structural system, so, those drawings are started, that's just they're not fully developed yet, and that'll come in the subsequent phases. So as far as funding, we had our original report, do you remember when that was? It was a couple of years ago now, Thad?
Sure.
A couple of years ago. And there hasn't been a lot of change in the funding mechanisms that are out there. There's still the potential of some grants, and then also using grants with perhaps the police to offset, if they can get equipment costs, that might offset some costs for the city. We still want to concentrate on the disenfranchised groups, seniors, low-income groups that would be using the community center. Maintaining that community center, that's going to help pull funds in from grant programs. The other one is sitting down and talking with Ellers to determine what the best financing options are for the city on this project.
Might as well go through a schedule.
Any other, as far as project schedule goes, we started out with the design phase one, which was completed back in January, and that's where we finalized with the public informational meeting. We then proceeded through the step two, or the phase two, which we've wrapped up this evening. The next step would be if the council would desire to proceed with the remainder of design, and we can start that as the council chooses. Right now, we put in the schedule that we would start that in September. That way we could get the bidding documents done going into winter and try to gather some favorable bids over the winter period. If the council would have us proceed with that, we'd be starting with construction in possibly March of 2015, as soon as March of 2015.
Corey, did I hear you say that that price is a turnkey? So in other words, that would be, we can just pick up our stuff and move in?
You can pick, well, there's a lot of options within the turnkey. I want to make sure everybody understands. There are going to be, there's 20-some thousand, I believe, is what I set aside for furnishings. So I didn't know what you were all going to bring, so we have to have those discussions yet. As far as computer systems, if you're going to maintain what you have, or do you want a whole new system? So we're going to have some of those discussions. But yes, we did include costs for some furniture, phones, and computers. You know, doors, carpet. I mean, it's a finished building ready for you to move in. You know, we got the fees in there for the electrical service, your gas service, all that. So there's not hidden costs anywhere.
Anybody else have any questions?
I can make a quick comment. I know at a couple of our past city council meetings, people had been asking, and even at the informational meeting for the open houses we had, people had asked, okay, you're talking about maybe $2 million, $2.2 million. What is that going to cost each individual on their property taxes? And the answer then and the answer right now is it depends. And that's where, when you look through the memo, there's a couple different options on how you can pay for this. Because we're doing a lot of TIF work with development right now, we're working with Ehlers and Associates quite a bit. They're probably in touch with us every week. They're planning on, in August, being either at the city council meeting or at a meeting. And those would be the folks that we could sit down and really hammer out, okay, what are you've got options, different types of funding sources, but how do you get the right mix on how you use all those sources? That's really what Ehlers, that's what their role would be. And right now, the tentative timeline that Corey went through would allow for an August discussion on what is the cost, what are you willing, what are you able to pay for, and how do you pay for it? I would think that would probably be the next step as we go from here. This is your report off of the phase 2 design. The next step would then be bringing in Ehlers, and they've reviewed this. They were in last week, and I reviewed this with them. They can take a look at your borrowing capacity, new development, all those different types of things. And within probably 30 days, I think they could probably get you a good number or a good formula or a couple formulas to work from.
I have one question. You're borrowing money,
Potentially.
potentially. What would be the interest rate?
That's an answer that Ehlers they would be the experts. I can tell you they just worked with Hortonville on a project, not like this one, but in similar type of scope. Ehlers would be able, because they're working every day with these types of financing projects and borrowing projects. And the other answer on that is it depends where you borrow from. You can borrow through state funds, you can borrow through, the open market. There's different types of payback periods. The interest rate is loaded on how long you're gonna pay it back. If it's 10 years, 20 years, 40 years.
Yeah. I was just wondering, just out of curiosity, if we have reached that stage.
We've reviewed it, and we've reviewed anywhere from 2.5% to 4%, but it depends on where you borrow the money, how much you're willing to pay it out up front, and how long you wanna borrow it for.
The other thing is, right now, completing this phase, I think you're in a good spot that if you wanted to start looking at grants, as long as we're in the proper cycle for those grants, we have the proper information we need to go forth and look at that.
Anything you need from us tonight then?
I don't think we do, other than maybe just your blessing that, or maybe just your plan that in August we'll be taking a look at this
Yep.
a little bit further.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, sir.
Thank you.
We'll move on then to our committee reports. Finance Committee?
We have the Finance Committee, they recommend approval of checks 30659 through 30742, totaling $149,517.87, and the monthly financial statements.
Motion, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Motion, and a seconded to approve the checks and the monthly financial statements. Any questions or comments or in regards to that? I ask for a roll call.
Appleby? Yep. Gunderson?
Aye.
Rasmussen?
Aye.
Brunner?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Carried with 5 ayes.
Okay. Anything else, Scott?
Well, that will be all, thank you.
Thank you. Public Works Committee.
I have no action for council.
Might be a first.
I was just gonna say, that's
That
gotta
is a
be,
first.
that's gotta be a first. Okay, thank you. Police, fire, and ambulance. Scott or Bruce, anything on that?
No action for council.
Okay. Public health and relief.
No action for council.
Okay. Recreation.
On behalf of Recreation Committee, I'd like to recommend approval to waive park shelter rental fees for a community Summerfest event on July 27th of 14.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion to waive the park shelter rental fees for the community Summerfest event on July 27th, 2014. Any questions or comments?
Just make a quick comment. This is something that they have enjoyed over the years with the event. We've also waived the swim lake admission fees for that day. As part of this, and I can't nail them down to it, but their group has talked about making a donation to the city in lieu of fees for the use of the park. So that has been discussed, but this would be, for right now, a recommendation to waive those park shelter rental fees. They do rent a couple shelters on the Saturday and typically pay the full rate for that. So it's not for the whole weekend, it's just for the day of the event on Sunday.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Public property and purchase.
No action for council.
Okay. Planning Commission. I look for a motion from the Planning Commission's recommendation for a conditional use permit for the Outagamie Cooperative Services Convenience Store and Fueling Facility at Lakeshore Drive and West Main Street. Do we get a motion?
I'll make
Yeah.
a motion.
Okay. Motion, I need a second.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any comments, questions?
I'll make a quick comment. What you're voting on is just the conditional use permit. Because of the way that that property is zoned, everything that is constructed there needs to be reviewed with a public hearing and approved for a conditional use. There was a conditional use permit granted in 2007 for a gas station. This is what we're talking about, is right next to the subway. But because obviously that wasn't constructed, after 2 years, that permit expires. So what they're basically looking to do is renew their conditional use and have an allowable use to build a gas station there. Now, this does not grant them the ability to build a gas station on its own, but they have been working on plans, and the gentleman, Mr. Schuman from OCS, was at the Plan Commission, explained some of their plans. They've been pared down a little bit compared to what they talked about a truck stop in the past. They're basically looking for a gas station, convenience store. We're working with them internally on the infrastructure improvements, improving Lakeshore Drive, improving the intersection, water and sewer. There was a gentleman from Lakeshore Court that was at the Plan Commission to ask about water and sewer. He was there for the public hearing portion. We did not hear from anyone recommending or asking against the granting of this permit. And like I said, this is something that's one step in the process towards them potentially and or eventually building a gas station. So you'll hear more from them before that's all approved.
Any other questions or comments? I'm gonna pat just. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I would look for a motion then to approve the recommendation of a sign permit for St. Peter's Lutheran Church and School.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign permit for St. Peter's Lutheran Church and School.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the sign permit for the St. Peter's Lutheran School and Church. Any questions or comments?
I'm just wondering, why for the school and the church, for a sign, why do they need a sign permit? Won't that be on church property?
No, it's the churches are zoned residential. So in the sign code, they're actually considered a residential sign that requires a permit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And there's a wooden sign there now, we were told that, and it'll go right where that wooden sign is now, on the west side of the building, parking lot there. Okay, we have no other questions or comments. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And then I would need a motion from the recommendation of the Planning Commission to schedule a public hearing for August 27th, 2014 on the creation of a TID number 6.
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Recommend approval, schedule a public hearing for August 27th, 2014 for creation of TID number 6.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Just a quick comment, this, August 27th would be, this is what I've been working with Ellers on, is the tax increment financing districts, it's TIF. They call them TIDs, the districts themselves. There will also be a joint review board held that night, and the joint review board is a member from every taxing jurisdiction, from the Weyauwega Fremont schools, the county, the tech school. Basically, when you create a TIF district, is you're freezing those property values for 20-some years, and any new development stays with the city to be invested towards infrastructure project costs. The joint review board is the school district giving their blessing towards that, the county, all of those. August 27th will be the big date for the establishment of a new TIF district, TID number 6, and it's right now scheduled to be in the neighborhood of the wastewater treatment plant. But at that public hearing, we'll have more information on that.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right, then we'll move on to new business. Review and approve the law enforcement public safety service agreement form.
I'll kick it over to Chief Poltruck in a second, but this is the form, there's two pieces here. One is the form itself, which is related to your motion last month to hold a temporary Class B beer license for the fair and develop a security plan with the city attorney. The document that you see in your packet is going to be a document that applies to the fair, number one, and the chief can talk a little bit about his discussion with the fair board. But this document is one that we can plug in for all of the events if they choose to utilize city police officers for security. And I can tell you the one that we did talk about was the county fair from last month. The other picnic licenses on here, they've been notified too that as you get your picnic license, here's what we will expect for the city's police force utilizing security. So they've been notified that this is what we're going to be doing now. And it's not, it's a condition of these types of licenses, if you so choose to approve the form. The form itself is here. If you want to make a motion on approving the form, that would be good. And then the chief can talk a little bit about the fair and what is being talked about or discussed with the fair security.
Do you want me to talk about how that happened now, or wait until you approve it, or?
You know what we can do? You can vote on the form now, and then as you take up the license, do you want to mention that then? And that's the next item.
Yeah. I guess real briefly, this form, we looked at it in talking to Jim Kelly, was when we were working at the fair, if we were to get involved with something where an officer got hurt or worse, where does the liability fall? And it didn't fall on the city, it fell on the person who was working. So we strongly recommended that we not put ourselves into that situation, nor should we with anybody else. So if you're saying picnic license, I'm assuming that's special events.
Mm-hmm.
So if another group comes in and says, hey, we want to have a party up at the fairgrounds or in the park, and we're going to serve alcohol and have a gathering, that's great. Part of that would be this form, is that you're going to need to provide adequate security, which is our people, and we would determine what the needs would be, and then they would pay for that. So we're not going out and providing services to anybody. And especially if it's a big event where there's 4 or 5 or 6 officers working, that's going to get expensive in a hurry. So this form came up, a unilateral thing. Somebody comes in and wants extra to hold an event. They would get this paperwork, fill it out, and then the actual cost would go back to them. So it fell in perfect timing, actually. So it wraps up the fair and should clear up any issue with her licensing for beer.
The big thing is, if you approve this form, the form itself is intended to be an agreement between the police chief and whoever is coming to request a license, I guess. So the question on my end for you would be, and a recommendation from Attorney Kelly is, here's the form, would you like to vote on it? And then just know that we're working on, when you get a picnic license, that we've already talked to the people that are looking at. And when I say picnic license, it's the temporary Class B beer license typically.
Am I missing it? Who's making the determination of how many officers are needed?
The police chief has.
So every time it's going to be subject to what he feels. So we're not.
Nick, what we'll do is, because this is new, the fair, what you see in there is what it has been in the past. I know of 2 events that are coming up that we kind of know what they're going to be, but if it's anything new or out of the ordinary, I think some discussion is going to have to be had on the end of approving that license to ascertain just what's going on.
Well, that's I know. I'm thinking we give a license to the ballpark. They serve beer. So you have your baseball guys.
You're right.
That's one level. Then you have the fireman's dance. There's another one. Horse and buggy days.
Yep.
Community fest. So I was just curious to this is gonna be a by individual thing you're gonna
Right.
determine?
It's gonna have to go on an individual basis. We know what horse and buggy days it's
Okay.
gonna take. We know what, the community fest would need, fire department would need.
I just don't see it spelled out anywhere in there who's gonna, unless I'm missing it.
In that
I
agreement,
see
there's a two appendix, there's an A and a B for the county. One has the schedule, and I think it says who's gonna be there, and the other one says what the rates are per employee for 2014.
Right, but I'm just saying I didn't see anything on the form itself saying that the city would determine on an individual basis what was necessary.
Oh.
It does say as determined at the sole discretion of the Weyauwega Police Department. It puts anonymity within the total power with the police department to make that determination.
Oh, okay, I just missed that down there.
Yep, and then it gets signed off with the police chief.
That's fine, I just wanted to know who is.
Most of the events that I can see that potentially would come up that we would need issues with would be a sectional, regional, sporting event at the school where they're required to provide law enforcement services, and then we'll just get the numbers from them, and how many people are you expecting? And then I've heard some rumors that there's some other things in the running for next year, which
Like the mayor
long
and the
before it
chief,
gets to
so
that,
that there
we're
is a
gonna have discussions
representative
on
of the
it.
city.
It's up to you.
I guess the only thing is, I just asked Pat, but should there be two signatures on there? Just because of the representation of the city? So
I don't have
that,
a problem with
so
that.
that somebody can't, well, it's,
What I thought about doing, and we can put two signatures on there, would be when they come in to apply for their picnic license, if it's something we're not sure about, we're gonna have to do some research and discuss it in here. I mean, we'll know what to expect on our end, but at the same time, we should all be on the same page so we know what product we're putting out there
right.
before it happens, so there's no surprises.
Like what, put the city administrator?
Well, the city
Put it on there?
administrator, or even the mayor himself, because he's actually the overseer of that. So as if it's a chief and the mayor, it's been approved.
Yep.
That's just my feeling.
Yep,
I don't know how the
and
rest
that's,
of you.
this, this item is to talk about the form, so if you wanna add that line, that's certainly appropriate.
And they
I
don't,
think you can amend that with a simple email.
Oh, yeah. Well, you can make a motion here and just put it on there, or recommend you put it on there, or, you know.
and this again, Jerry, because it's in Weyauwega, it doesn't necessarily, if they have an event at the fairgrounds, they don't have to choose our police force, correct? Or is this, are we stating that because it's Wapaka County Fairgrounds, does it have to be?
Well, that's an interesting comment we should probably make to Callie, but when I had my discussions with them over the week was, let's say somebody comes in and wants to race again, race cars. And they say, well, we'd like to provide Joe's Security out of Oshkosh. Well, that's great. Joe's Security out of Oshkosh comes in and provides security, and when they have a problem, they call us. So we have to be ready to go to accommodate them. Now, if they want to come in and have, like I said, we talk about it on an individual basis, is we prefer to provide our guys, because we know what the product's gonna be. But we can't say you have to,
Right,
and I think there's gonna be some interpretation from the attorney on that,
Right.
because Patrick and I had a conference call with him to determine jurisdiction. It's county property, but it's within the corporate limits of the city. So I think we kinda got a handle on what's going on, and we can probably
Okay.
dictate what we wanna do.
I just wanted to, because after reading that, that's what I looked at, is somebody that comes in and they look at that dollar amount for each officer that's stated in there, and they say, well, geez, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna go try to find somebody else. Are we okay to be saying that you're in our jurisdictions, it has to be our police department?
With talking to Mr. Calney, that puts us in the driver's seat to
Okay.
determine what we do and don't wanna have happen.
Okay,
So I'm thinking back, remember we had an organization out of California come in a few years ago, and they made claims there were gonna be thousands and thousands of people for this event up at the fairgrounds, and it quickly got corrupted. Well, that gives us the power to say, well, you need to prove this. I've heard some things on proof of insurance for different events that may or may not have actually been there in the past. Well, now, there's a process here, whatever requirements you guys have, when it gets to the point of, all right, well, you have to provide law enforcement for this reason, and then we'll determine what's the need, how much of it do you need, and then passing the actual costs on to them, so the city's not just putting on extra people for public or private events.
The big thing here is when you look at this document in front of you, just the first paragraph, it talks about clubs, associations, agricultural societies, churches, lodges. That language is specific to those groups that are eligible to take out the temporary Class B beer license. And then when you look at recitals, the very first line says, licensee has applied for temporary Class B fermented malt beverage license. So this form is strictly applicable to those that are looking to sell beer through the Class B temporary license. So if somebody's coming just to have an event but not sell beer, sometimes maybe you need to do something with security, but that might even be a little bit different than this form here.
Because I think when they have the rabbit show, I don't think they have it. So we really wouldn't need that, because we don't get involved in that, do we?
I don't think any
They did not
sales
have one
of
this year.
rabbits.
Okay.
And they have those, there's other events up there, livestock and
Yep.
4-H and things like that. If they bring their own beverages in and out, there's graduation parties, there's, you know, I don't think we want to get down to having them
Right.
staff somebody, but if it's an event that's going to draw in the public potentially, I think at minimum, this, you know, you guys should have at least an idea of what's happening well before it happens.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? We have a motion? No, we don't. Okay, I guess I would look for,
I'll make a motion to approve the law enforcement public safety services agreement form.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Do we make a recommendation on the secondary signature after?
No, if you
Or
want to put
no?
the caveat on right now that you would
Yes.
like to see the
Okay,
mayor's
that's right.
signature on there, you can
Sure.
make that part of your motion.
Sure, with the addition of the mayor's signature.
Second that portion too, okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the law enforcement public safety service agreement form. Any other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now I need a motion then to approve the Class B retailer's license for the Weyauwega County Fair from August 20th through the 24th, 2014.
I'll make a motion or approve Class B retailer's license for St. Peter and Paul's Catholic Church.
No, this one's for fair.
This is for
The
fair.
I'm
Yep.
sorry.
Yep, right before that one.
Oh, yeah. Retailer's license for Weyauwega County Fair from August 20th to the 24th, 2014.
Okay. I have a motion, do I have a second?
No second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
We touched on it a little bit, but you had held it from last month's meeting to have the city attorney work with them on developing a security plan. And Jerry, I know you were involved with that too, if you want to comment a little bit on what the security plan is and how that works. I mean, we touched on it a little bit, and
For
it's
the
in
fair?
your agreement. Yeah, for the fair.
The fair is basically similar to what it has been in the past as far as staffing on the grounds. We still have to staff extra people on the road because of traffic coming and going. We gave Kay the dollar amount and said, this is the way it is. And I explained to her, and a couple of fair board members explained to her that other functions in the county are very similar to this. So you've got the car show, security is not cheap. They went back to the fair board meeting, and this is why we've been occupied with this so much in the last 2 weeks. Talked about it, agreed that that's what they would prefer. they would prefer that we be there in the same capacity as we have in the past, and they agreed to cover the actual cost of what it ends up being at the end of the fair on Sunday night. And that's the way it's gonna be moving forward, so. It's nothing new, it's, as far as the numbers of people, it's just, different in how it gets billed. And Mr. Kennelly said that everything should come through the city, so everything is accounted for.
I could maybe make a follow-up comment too, just to say that all of the officers that work there are going to get paid through the city. So when they hit overtime rates, they're gonna get paid overtime. When they're on their regular time, they'll get paid the regular time. All of those costs, wages, Social Security, Medicare, retirement, those are all getting billed to the fair. So the city's going to be made whole on that. And for the officers, Jerry mentioned with the insurance coverage before, they really didn't have any liability workers' comp coverage at all. We talked a little bit at the police committee meeting about the city having an issue or potential liability. And we had talked through with our insurance company and with our attorneys, they had said the city's gonna be okay no matter what, because they could potentially be considered independent contractors of the fair. So it really works out the best for everybody in this room, where our guys are being covered. There'll be police officers, so they'll have to respond anyway at the fair, whether they're hired or a private firm is hired. And then on top of that, the employees are going to be making their true rate as officers when they're working over there too.
One thing I looked at, Jerry, on there, it was the 23rd, August 23rd. And I guess just looking out for our officers, is that, do you approve of that, having just that one officer up there for that time period by himself?
There's one that comes in at 5 o'clock,
Yep.
and there's 3 more that come in at 6.
Okay,
Yeah, so-
and then they go home at, so he's just gonna be there for an hour at the end?
The last hour is typically the last person waiting to escort them down to do a bank drop.
Oh.
So there's actually our squad that's on in town.
Yep.
And the officer that's at the fairground.
Okay,
Now,
Okay.
I explained to Kay that if something goes wrong and we're there until 4 in the morning, it's actual costs. And if it rains, we send people home and it doesn't cost her as much. So she's on board with it, and this is very similar to what we've done in the past.
okay, okay. Any other questions or comments? All right. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Now I would need to have a motion for a temporary Class B retail license for St. Peter's and Paul Catholic Church for Community Summerfest for July 27th, 2014.
I guess I'll make a motion to approve a Class B retailer's license for St. Peter and Paul's Catholic Church for Community Summerfest on July 27th,
Thank you.
2014.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for St. Peter's Catholic Church Summerfest, Community Summerfest, Class B retailer's license. Any questions or comments?
Quick comment is they are aware of the potential, and now you did approve the security form for them. Now, the difference with them, and the thing you'll see different from the fair for almost everybody, is that this is a smaller window of time on one day, so it's like 3-4 hours. So it's something that it's a little easier to get a part-time officer that's not as expensive, but they are aware of your security requirements, and they said that that's not a problem.
Okay,
So from now on, will we be getting, along with the request for a permit, will we be getting a copy of the agreement so we know what kind of officers we may or may not be looking at?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The big thing is gonna come down to scheduling, because you're leaving it in the hands of the police department yet. So I mean, you can get a part-timer,
Right.
and then with your schedule and with their event, if somebody ends up calling in sick, ends up being, but that's where in your agreement it says whatever it costs. is what
Right,
it costs.
I wasn't so concerned about who it was just the number of officers that was deemed appropriate for the situation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. No other questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I need a motion then to approve a street permit for the Weyauwega Area Fire Department for the Fireman's Dance on August 9th and 10th, 2014.
You might as well keep going, Jim.
I guess. I make a motion to approve street use permit for the Weyauwega Area Fire Department for firefighters dance on August 9th and 10th, 2014.
Okay. I
I'll
have
second it.
a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And now we need a motion for a temporary Class B retailer's license for the Weyauwega Area Fire Department for that same dance.
I make a motion to approve. Yeah, I make a motion to approve Class B retailer's license for Weyauwega Area Fire Department for firefighters dance on August 9th through the 10th, 2014.
I'll second that.
That's through the 10th, so they can,
Well,
they
it's
can,
admin, yeah.
they can go all night?
It's
Yeah.
one in the morning.
Whoever
Yes.
turns them on.
No, I know, I just, whatever turns them on, okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Look for a motion then to approve applications for Brady Brogard at Hofschultz Brew House and Sally McGovern at Weyauwega Star Dairy.
You know, check with the police chief on this one.
If you want to do, one was denied by the police department.
Recommended for denial.
Yes.
Yep, I was just gonna say, I see that one was denied, and I would have to question the other one for not possibly having a complete form.
Didn't he?
He did. It is completed. Is it not scanned with the completed
Well,
one?
it states up there that if you mark yes in any of those boxes, down below, it states that if you haven't answered yes to any of the above questions, please list the date and the nature of the offense and the location of the offense. So, I mean, we are asking, if they do put yes in there, they need to give us
He's got it on the report.
clarification. And I don't see it written on this one.
Becky, is this the one that we had sent back to him?
Yeah, he came in and he filled out the stuff that was highlighted on it. That section might not have been highlighted. I can say that there have been past ones in the area and have not listed it. When the police run their background check, it all shows up on the background check.
No, I think we should probably get some clarification moving forward. He had an underage alcohol violation. Do you want these people to provide like Sally did? What she did is she just went through those 2 pages that you see there, and she just went on CCAP and printed them out. And that's the first step that we use, and the second step is a criminal history.
I guess I would like to see something like that.
That's fine. I
Yeah.
mean,
As far as it's juvenile like that, I don't even think it's any of our business.
well, if it's out there and been adjudicated through the courts at 17, it's out there, so. Juvenile, anything juvenile, criminal under 16 wouldn't show up anyway.
Technically underage might be an adult too.
Yeah, it could be 18, 19, 20. It'd be a good guideline to have if we want them to provide it, because what she provided there is exactly what was the first step I looked at, which was on CCAP, which, you know, So we still need to go any further, but
Okay. Need a motion then, or is, and a second for that?
One or both?
This one.
We probably want to split them and vote on them individually.
Right, I just thought that would be up to whoever was gonna make the
Yeah.
motion.
I'm not even gonna touch that one.
Well,
With a 10-foot pole.
Eric, do you know, is that the one that he said yes on was the violation of an alcohol beverage law, regulation, or rule not specified above? Is that what that was underage?
he had an underage alcohol violation.
Do you know
I think
when?
that was the only thing. I'll double check, but it was a no-brainer that it wasn't a big deal.
All right.
I'll
And you recommend it for
Yeah.
approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the operator's license for Brady Brogard for the brew house. Brogard.
Okay,
I'll second that.
we have a motion and a second to approve an operator's license for Brady Brogard for Hofschultz Brew House. Any other questions or comments on that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
I guess I'll make a motion to deny the operator's license request for Sally McGovern for Weyauwega Star Dairy.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny an application, or operator's license for Sally McGovern for Weyauwega Star Dairy. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. And now we need a motion then to renew the mobile park license for Lamplighter Village for terms beginning June 1st, 2014 and ending May 30th, 1st, 2015.
Oops, not married.
I'll make a motion to renew a mobile home park license for Lamplighter Village for a term beginning June 1st, 2014 and ending May 31st, 2015.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the renewal for mobile home park license for Lamplighter Village. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay. Mayor's report. I have nothing to report except for seeing Angie sitting in the back. There's been a lot of street talk, and I just would like to make sure that the people in the community realize that they have 2 aldermen for each of the wards that we have. And if they have any issues or problems, they can contact their alderperson. They can contact me. But there's been a lot of negative things that I've been hearing. I believe that we have one of the best staffs, from police to public works to the office. And I'm hearing negative things out there. And I would like for them to step forward and come to a council meeting and talk to the 6 council people and myself here, or call one of us. But I don't like what I'm hearing on the streets, because every one of them are doing their job. And things aren't going to get fixed by talking about them on the street. Because if there's things that need to be fixed, this is the group right here that's gonna do it. And if we all don't hear it, none of us are gonna be able to do anything about it. I think we're all working together. We're trying to work with everybody in the city. We're not doing, I don't think we're taking any favoritism. I don't think we're overlooking anybody. But if you have a problem, please step forward, because we'll be glad to listen to you and try to do what we can as a city to help. If we can. That's all I have. Administrator's report.
I'll touch on briefly, every committee meeting we go to, we have an administrator's report over the last few months, maybe over the last year, and we talk about each topic. And I feel like I repeat myself a couple times, but a couple of the big ones that I'll talk about are, as Frank had mentioned earlier, I was actually gonna talk a little bit about all of the digging in town. You'll know that the County F project, which I need to get in touch with Angie about for the paper, we're in the middle of the utility construction right now. That's about a 4-week process. Got about 2 more weeks left. The road's been dug up. They're laying water, sewer, working on the storm water. After that, the county's gonna take over paving that roadway to the city limits, from Lincoln to the city limits. We are going to continue some other utility construction through the city. We've bored a new water line at the end of West Main to address some freeze-up issues in the past. Got some work at one of the wells, and then also at the treatment plant. We'll be running a new water main, and we'll be working with the local businesses there on accommodating their traffic and their customers and their business there. Weyauwega did, as we mentioned, they're looking at upgrading from a 4 kV electric system in town to 12 kV, which is going to be more reliable. We'll be hooked in with, I believe there's a White Lake substation. We'd be hooked into Fremont. Closer down in Weyauwega County, there's another one. So you'll all remember last August when the storm came through, knocked out power for at least 12 hours. Some places were out for a few days. Weyauwega is taking on a multi-million-dollar project to upgrade our power and loop us with all of the other communities. So an even bigger storm would have to occur to knock us totally out of power, which, knock on wood, you hope that that doesn't happen. They were at the northern entrance to the city along X and in the industrial park running new poles, burying wires this year. They came up the southern entrance on F, and they came all the way to South Street. I believe Shaney and Jerry, they were in your backyard replacing big poles. That's this year. They're coming up on finishing their work this year, but next year they're going to be really in the heart of the city between, Frank, aren't they almost at your house, I think, or almost to the library even?
Well, they're about a block away.
So mainly downtown, they'll be replacing all the poles, burying some power. You heard the city hall presentation. The schedule right now is that in March, we're in the ground digging, if that stays online. Now, we've seen that that's backed up a little bit, but that's, not only is Weyauwega gonna be right downtown digging, but we could potentially be digging up City Hall. The wastewater treatment plant is lining up to be a project for next year. It's going to be a productive year, but it could be a headache too. So, but that's usually when people are building, that's usually a sign of progress. It's the big issue for staff now is that those projects sound really good for next year, but those are all planned out well in advance. So that's really what we've been doing, working with the TIF districts, working with Ellers. We have new attorneys on board. I can tell you they've been great. I'm working with them on getting a weekly or bi-weekly report for you guys so that you know exactly what they're working on, because they've been knocking out a lot of pretty high-level things. I would say that's probably my big report. We're just really busy. And then on top of that, we did have the fireworks event, and I feel like that went okay. The hope was, if you look down 5-10 years from now, that in 2014, when we put out a band and had some fireworks and told people to bring their own food, hopefully that would be the lowest on the level of success for all of these events, and if that's the lowest, I think we're gonna have a pretty good event moving forward, so it was good, and the big thing is it didn't rain, the weather cooperated, so. That's all I've got.
Only a few mosquitoes.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been busy for sure.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, you have anything else? Police chief report?
It's July, we're busy. That's what happens every July with traffic and property crimes. We're busy. Nothing noteworthy to report. I'd just like to go back and add, because it's with request for the operator's license. I think what I'll do is I'll just provide a copy of what I learned for each and every one of them, because then there's, if you're sitting there going, I wonder why he's saying denied or approved, if I just put it there, then you can look at it. And if it's already gonna go out in the packet, it's public information, we'll just do it that way. Just makes it easier. Then there's no question, because as I sat here, I'm thinking to myself, well, I think that's what it was. So I had to go back and look and double check again, just because we do so many backgrounds that I don't remember them all.
Okay, sounds good.
I do have one thing to add that changed since Public Works met. We did make an offer to a full-time Public Works utility employee, and he accepted, and he's going to start within 2 weeks here. So make sure we have him at the committee and we can introduce him and all that, so.
I just, one more thing that
There
I
you go.
want to throw in there.
One up each other.
It has nothing to do with the police
Here we
department.
go, here we go.
It's nothing to do with the police department, but I think you guys gotta hear it. I have had tons of people making positive comments on the little flower beds downtown. So however that came around, a great idea.
Does look
A lot of
nice.
people, and they look nice.
Yes, it does.
And they're being taken care of, because I see